Let me share something nobody has ever expressed to you quite this directly. Your mind thrives on learning. It came into existence for exactly that. Yet it despises studying the manner you were instructed. And do you understand the reason? Because they trained you to study like a robot. But you are alive. They instructed you to recite, to commit to memory, to imitate, review, recite once more. But the mind wasn't designed to obey orders. It was designed to investigate concepts. Recall the moments you absorbed something without effort. Perhaps a fresh sport, a melody, or that episode of a show you still recall in every particular. You didn't study it. You experienced it. Your mind was rejoicing, alert, inquisitive, linking elements, weaving narratives, smiling, participating. That is what genuine learning truly feels like. Now contrast it with that instance when you sat before a textbook, repeating identical phrases, attempting to persuade yourself you were concentrating. That sensation when your thoughts begin to wander. Your body remains present, but your mind has vanished. That's your brain shouting. This approach fails. Consider how often you attempted to grasp something and sensed nothing was sticking. How frequently you stared at a page and everything appeared boring, empty, drained of color. Now listen very carefully to me. The issue was never the topic. It was the method you employed to absorb it. The human intellect was built to uncover, not to store facts. It sparks before a puzzle, but it dims before endless repetition. When boredom creeps in during learning, it's not a shortage of intelligence. It's a signal you're forcing understanding down a route your mind rejects. Boredom serves as your brain's warning. Hey, you're not actually learning. You're merely enduring the data. Now picture something straightforward. A researcher confronting an enigma. He doesn't memorize equations. He experiments with them. He trials. He errs. He contrasts. He questions, why does this occur? And during that journey, his mind ignites like a star field. That is what learning really means. It's exploration. It's linkage. It's converting the unfamiliar into something known. But what do most individuals attempt? They grab a textbook and try compelling the mind to submit. You don't conquer understanding that way. You repel it. Learning isn't punishment. It's the most captivating game ever invented. But you only realize that when you cease studying like a machine and begin thinking like an adventurer. The key lies in curiosity. Every time you wonder, what if, the mind awakens. Every time you merely read without questioning, it drifts off. You don't require additional discipline. You require more exploration. So next time learning feels tedious, don't flee from it. Question yourself, what am I doing incorrectly in this approach? Because boredom isn't the opponent. It's the guide revealing there's a superior method to learn. The issue isn't the material, it's the technique. You're not stupid. You're simply applying the incorrect instrument for the correct purpose. It's like attempting to launch an airplane by shoving it manually. Naturally, it seems draining. Naturally, it seems pointless because it is. You were conditioned to think that struggle equals learning. But struggle without purpose is merely waste. Genuine learning occurs when you're inquisitive. When your mind craves what follows next, when you're playing with understanding, not battling against it. And the most wonderful aspect, this isn't a talent, it's a practice. You can revive that passion for learning. All it demands is altering how you engage with concepts. Cease attempting to study, begin to comprehend. Cease attempting to memorize, begin to uncover. You weren't created to memorize solutions. You were created to pose the sorts of questions that reshape the world. Let me reveal something that could entirely transform how you perceive learning. The mind doesn't learn because it's required. It learns because it feels meaningful. Everything that appears difficult or dull is actually just something your mind hasn't linked yet to what you already grasp. And that's precisely why occasionally you comprehend intricate matters effortlessly, yet stall when confronting something basic. It's not a deficiency in intellect. It's a deficiency in connection. Picture your mind as a landscape. Each concept you've ever absorbed is a city. When fresh information appears, your mind attempts to sketch a pathway to connect the new to what already resides. If it discovers the rote suddenly, you comprehend. But if it fails, that new element becomes a solitary wasteland. And that's where boredom starts to flourish. Now, take a deep breath and reflect. How often have you gazed at something and declared, "This is pointless"? Well, here's the reality. The difficulty isn't the subject. It's that you haven't yet recognized why it holds value. And here's the technique. Significance isn't something you discover. It's something you build. You can render anything engaging if you understand how to tie it to your reality. If you're studying biology, consider how your body serves as your personal laboratory. If it's mathematics, observe how it structures the disorder in everything, in finances, in melodies, in the cosmos. When you grant purpose to what you're studying, your mind illuminates like a beacon. It declares, "Oh, so that's what this serves." And in that instant, knowledge ceases being a burden and transforms into strength. Listen closely. Everything that feels difficult currently can become joyful once you locate the proper connection. That connection is constructed with curiosity, comparisons, and the longing to perceive how every concept links to your existence. Learning resembles assembling a puzzle. Sometimes you're not lacking skill, just the correct piece. And when it finally connects, you feel that burst within. That's your mind celebrating revelation. So the next time something feels meaningless, ask yourself, how can this help me perceive the world more clearly? Because the secret was never about avoiding boredom. It's about converting boredom into curiosity. Now imagine something potent with it. You're so absorbed in what you're doing that time vanishes. Hours slip by and they feel like moments. You're not hungry, not weary, not hurried, just profoundly focused, free, vibrant. That's the flow state. It's that enchanting instant when your mind and your essence move to the same beat. And guess what? That's when true learning occurs, because flow is your mind's natural method of declaring, "I'm precisely where I belong." But here's the challenge. Almost nobody understands how to reach it because we spend our lives attempting to force learning instead of falling in love with it. You can't access flow by reciting empty phrases. You access it when you feel you're uncovering something authentic, when you sense advancement, even if gradual. Listen to me now. This is important. The mind enters flow when challenge and significance exist simultaneously. If it's too simple, it grows bored. If it's too difficult, it becomes frustrated. But when something is challenging enough to draw you and clear enough to direct you, you enter that state where everything begins to flow. That's where learning turns into delight, where fatigue transforms into vitality, where curiosity becomes energy and time simply vanishes. Want an illustration? Recall when you were young, just playing. You didn't study to learn, yet you were learning constantly. Every try was an experiment, every error a revelation. You were in flow naturally. You were living the experience, not pursuing the outcome. And that's what most grown-ups forget: the bravery to play with understanding, to experiment, to err, to savor the journey. Because learning isn't about storing concepts, it's about experiencing them. And flow is that instant when your mind finally recalls that learning is as natural as breathing. When you discover this, studying ceases feeling like a weight and becomes a wonderful obsession. You don't want to quit because you can sense yourself expanding every moment. And that's the sort of joy that transforms ordinary individuals into exceptional thinkers. Let me reveal a truth no school ever teaches. The greatest learners worldwide aren't the ones who study the longest. They're the ones who recognize when to pause. Yes, pause. Because learning doesn't flourish when you compel your mind. It flourishes when you honor your own rhythm. The mind isn't a muscle forged of metal. It's a living garden. And a garden doesn't grow because you tug the plants upward, but because you provide them time and proper nourishment. So many confuse productivity with fatigue. They invest 10 hours attempting to learn, but only truly comprehend during the initial 2. And afterward, the body remains, but the mind wanders off. You've experienced it. That moment when you read the identical sentence 5 times and still grasp nothing, that's your mind requesting rest. And what do most people do? They disregard it. They push harder, and they destroy the pleasure of learning. Listen to me attentively now. Deep learning requires energy, and energy isn't forced. It's restored. You need breaks. You need breathing space. Moments where the mind reorganizes, reconnects, and discovers meaning. It's in that quietness that ideas begin to flourish. It's in rest that knowledge becomes wisdom. So stop judging your value by how many hours you spend studying. It's not the quantity of time that measures your growth. It's the quality of your focus. 3 hours of authentic learning outweigh 10 hours of duty. You don't need to study longer. You need to study smarter. If you can enter flow, truly engage for 3 hours, then permit yourself to pause, to breathe, to stroll. You'll return more creative, more vibrant, more prepared to learn again. Because learning isn't a race, it's a dance between effort and rest. And when you finally grasp that, you realize that learning can be the most natural, joyful, and life-changing act of your existence. Do you know the greatest error of people who desire to learn more? It's believing that learning concerns accumulating facts. It's not. Learning concerns transforming yourself. Knowledge that doesn't alter how you think is merely data. But true learning changes your perspective. It changes how you view the world and above all how you view yourself. Have you ever observed how individuals who cherish learning appear more alive? They don't know everything, but they possess a curiosity that brightens their gaze. They don't memorize facts, they dance with concepts. And that's why you must cease fearing the process. Mistakes, uncertainties, challenges, they're all elements of the alchemy of growth. Listen to me carefully, because this might be the most vital thing you'll hear today. You're not bored because the topic is boring. You're bored because you stopped engaging with the mystery of existence. And life, my friend, is the greatest classroom there is. Everything within it teaches something, but only those who observe with curiosity, not hurry, truly learn. Learning isn't simple, but it doesn't have to be burdensome. It becomes lighter the instant you realize that every obstacle is a chance to become more aware, more awake, more human. And when you fall in love with that, everything shifts. The fear of failing vanishes. Comparison loses its power and a fresh version of you starts to emerge. A mind that's vibrant, restless, creative. Because learning at its essence is an act of love. Love for comprehending the world, for expanding yourself, for uncovering what exists beyond the obvious. And those who love learning never grow old. They may change professions, nations, or dreams, but they never cease growing. So if learning has felt dull recently, pause, breathe, and question yourself, where did I lose my curiosity? Because when it returns, everything begins to make sense again. And perhaps right now you're understanding something simple yet profound. Learning was never the issue. The issue was forgetting how extraordinary discovery truly is. And I want to hear from you. Write in the comments below with just one sentence. I choose to relearn how to learn. Because that small action, writing it, is already evidence that you've grasped the message. You don't want to merely gather information. You want to awaken that curiosity the world once caused you to forget. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel now and turn on the bell. And don't forget to leave your like right now. Here, every video is created to rekindle something inside you, to remind you that learning is not a burden, it's a privilege. And your mind was made for it. To grow, to evolve, and to marvel at what it doesn't yet know. Because in the end, those who truly learn never lie bored,